So again, pardon my voice quality. As I said in the morning, I have a really bad throat. So I hope you can hear what I'm trying to bring forward. So I would like to start a very important conversation on the future path for globalization and digitalization. I promise to keep it very light and interactive, given the fact that we all had a very busy, long, and a tiring week, but very exciting and inspiring week as well. So in our roundtable, we have experts from Brexiting UK, North America, and Europe. With that, I would like to introduce our panel members, and I would like to start first with Melanie Moore. So, Melanie, please introduce yourself. Talk about your profession and your passion, and please keep it to 5 minutes so that other speakers can also get a chance to speak, and then we can kind of get into the core of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, thanks for hosting this here and very inspiring week by Caspian Week. Great job for the team here. I'm Melanie Moore. I'm a serial entrepreneur, 4 times founder from Germany. I'm coming out of 20 years of media, marketing, and mobile technology. And I started now diving into blockchain technology 3 years ago. I incorporated a new company out of Singapore, which is One Protocol. And I hope to add some value to this very interesting discussion because especially in blockchain technology, if you are creating a company, if you're potentially also using cryptocurrencies, you're facing challenges and have to comply to a lot of regulatory frameworks. So globalization, digitalization, I think there is nearly no technology than blockchain technology that is dealing with so many regulatory frameworks like this one, and also with adoption. That's a very interesting or very important topic now for everyone who is working in this technology space. When can we see really good use cases in showing the beauty what this trust bringing technology can really achieve. And additionally, I'm fascinated by teen entrepreneurship. That's my personal passion. I created platforms that are mainly used by teenagers and young entrepreneurs. I learned a lot from them. And these young people are the driving force for digitalization, and they have a very special perspective on the global landscape and how they unite. And I think we have also seen it here again with climate change and how one young teenager brought this topic to a global scale. So I'm very happy to be here in this round, excellent round, and hope to be able to contribute and add value.
Thank you. I am Igor. I'm a Chief Digital Officer and Head of Research and Development of Integral Petroleum. Yeah. So I am blockchain guy, AI guy, and big data guy. So that's why I am totally global and totally digital. And that's why I have special point of view about everything. I will talk about it later. I think that's enough for me.
Hello, my name is Alex Solovyov. Yes, I'm based in the UK and I lived there for almost 30 years, but whenever people ask me where I'm from, I say I'm from Siberia. Yes, I'm British Russian. And I probably have to declare that in referendum, Brexit referendum, I invalidated my ballot because I didn't want to influence election. And but mainly because my wife is German, and that would ruin my marriage if I voted as I wanted. Yes, I also hope I will be able to contribute to this conversation. We are an international company, Econofisica. We've been trading now for 20 years in all geographies, but more recent developments in the world created sort of new aspects, and I hope I'll share some experience about this.
Hi, everyone. My name is Murickan. I want to thank Caspian Week. I can't think of a better setting to have this conversation or continue this conversation. I'm the CEO of TransfInnovation. It's a little bit a mouthful because it's transformation with innovation. And I run a joint venture of 4 startups that combine, collaborate, and scale AI, blockchain, IoT, and hybrid cloud. And we actually span the gamut of industries from energy to industrial, medical, life sciences, vertical farming, sustainable farming, sports, and rehabilitation. And then when we span into, we are also in social impact and also in governance, in politics with elect aid, and even in a huge issue in globalization, which is counterfeiting, so authenticating products. So when we look at this arena and talk about globalization, we work all around the globe. And I first want to talk about some challenges and then the opportunities. But before we jump into that conversation, I always look at this and say, I really need to ask the question to my 12-year-old son and his perspective on digitalization and globalization, right? And that's a key thought we have to keep in mind because our experiences may actually limit us in some way. So I look forward to contributing in a minute.
Thank you so much. So with that, I would pose the first question. And just because of the sensitivity of time, I'm going to first ask the questions to the panel speakers, and then I'm going to open the floor for the audience because we just have an hour to discuss about this important topic. So you all run businesses in various parts of the world. So what do you think are the impact and the issues of digitalization and globalization from a governance perspective?
I guess I can begin. So I was true to my word that I'll talk to you in a minute. So going back to what I was talking about my son, so if I were to ask him, which I've asked him this question, is his answer would be, why can't I be a global citizen? What prevents me to going to North Korea and them knowing who I am, being able to take a credit card, swipe it, and not go through all the difficulties that we even face in Sweden? So that's an important concept because we're still struggling in the minimal way just to get that even through many of the countries. But if you start looking at digitalization, and it's the easiest path to globalization, one could argue. But the hurdle really starts with, what are the regulatory issues that you face when you do that? We have several platforms that should be able to be globally implemented, meaning it should be plug and play, but they're not. I think the largest companies in this world, like Uber, find that every time they adapt to a country, they have to figure out how they adapt to that country. What are the challenges? What are the political will to be able to adapt there? So I think those are the challenges, and they have been challenges, but it's time for us to talk openly about these challenges. And digitization, especially blockchain, is a key portion of that, AI being the other, is, how do you validate the person? How do you create a global citizenship? What prevents people from quickly migrating and then being able to transact businesses and other things? And I think that's where we should be leading the conversation and trying to cross those hurdles as they come across. But it will take definitely political will and leveling the regulatory landscape.
Okay, I can continue. I will be answering this question strictly based on my personal experience. I set up my company in the UK 20 years ago, and it was paradise. You could trade whenever you wanted. Nobody asked where you're from, as long as you had something to offer. And we operate quantitative technologies, mainly to the banking industry. You are welcome to come, set up your shop, and do business. But during these 2 decades, we actually start to see significant changes. Just 2 years ago, we got a new client in the US, and when we started to negotiate a contract, the client pointed out that there is a Patriot Act in the US. So basically, if you want to transact above a certain amount, you will be scrutinized by the authorities, and obviously a hedge fund didn't want too much hassle. So we had to adjust and set up all necessary things in the US. And with all these sanctions and geopolitical tensions, for example, one of our clients, German one, asked us not to mention Russia in our contract because our delivery center is based in Russia, despite the fact that we trade through the UK company. So it would be nice, of course, that digital technologies would open up borders, but unfortunately governments act in the opposite direction. And I personally think this is for long haul. It's not a short-term 4-year problem. Whether Trump or not, I think we are going through the cycle, and there will be probably a period when I think national interests or protectionism will prevail over globalization.
Thank you, Oleg. Yes, I agree with you. Digital technologies actually know no border, and border pops up only out of government will. And yes, it will require political will to destroy it, because all these libraries we use in my work, they are created all over across the world by people who live in any other country, like in Europe, in US, in Russia, in China. And they are open source, and everybody can use it. And so the borders, they just not getting thinner, they're getting thicker because of will of governments. I can say that it's not that easy to invest Chinese money, let's say, to Caspian region. Okay, that's why China signed and Switzerland signed memorandum of understanding to simplify this procedure. I think that digital solutions make our world better, but they know no borders, and we still have these borders only because of the will of government. Yep.
Yeah, we're somehow, I think, in the same space. And also my experience being a tech entrepreneur now since more than 10 years, in the beginning, in the mobile technology, coming out of Germany, being an European entrepreneur, we always looked towards Silicon Valley and what was happening there, and everything was exciting, and everyone in Europe wanted to get funding from one of the VCs in Silicon Valley and get a branch in San Francisco. And now things have changed, and especially in this emerging technologies, the next big thing can come out of Zimbabwe or out of any region and country on this planet. And when we are in our space, we're looking where to incorporate a company. Now we're not looking to Delaware anymore. We are looking to Mauritius, and we're looking into, of course, Singapore, Hong Kong, and all the other hubs that made it easy for us as tech entrepreneurs to get started, and gave us a so far environment where we could feel comfortable and felt okay, we're welcomed, and still can comply to the framework that this is given us. And so I think it's very transformational for all governments now, that they need to understand we can go anywhere. And if they want these new technologies and want to embrace it and embrace innovation, then they need to open up and maybe in the initial phase to just watch and just let it go, and then to bring the right framework in place after really understanding digitalization and innovation, transformative innovation that is coming from these technologies.
So, what factors have sped up the process of globalization and digitalization in modern era? I want you all to throw light some factors. We cannot cover all the factors, but given the fact that you, again, as I said, work in different parts of the world, but have your offices all around, what do you think are some of the factors that are affecting this movement?
I mean, I think the key factor here is data is liquid, right? And data is central. So, we are all talking about AI and we're all talking about blockchain, but really that data is what we're all struggling with, but at the same time, equitable access, global access to that data, but that really unlocks a lot of the problems that we will have. So how do we unlock it even in a more meaningful way? Companies scale globally because of that ability through mobile devices to trade data and do that. And that's how companies that didn't exist 4 years ago are unicorns now. So to me, when we look at a framework, if we want to truly continue this globalization, right, we have to come up with the right platform where everyone has equal say. And when I say everyone, I mean every country has an equal say. It wasn't invented here or invented there, but where everyone can, let's call it a global highway, where everyone can merge onto and merge off of, where the data can be protected, encrypted in the right way, and may not even need encryption because you can use blockchain in the right way and AI in the right way to protect it for everyone. So I think that is the key, right? And we're sensitive about data. Everyone in our room, they're more open.
Thank you. Yes, I want to continue. We had a Swiss client, and in Switzerland you have absolutely easily been done from anywhere in the world because once we arrived, we were sitting in one room and we never actually saw our contacts at the bank because nobody actually needed a physical contact. It was just because of the regulations. Yes, in the UK we are now splitting and nobody knows what is going to happen in terms of harmonization. So whether UK will become, as they say, Singapore on Thames, but clearly regulations will play an extremely important role for whether or not we will have opportunities with even such international technologies as digital technologies.
Yeah, I think, yes, that the data is liquid, data is everywhere now. We have many data flows, but at the same time, we have plentiful of formats and different laws that are limiting interconnecting of different countries using different formats and having different law requirements to store the data and to have some data maybe not have the data even. So even if data is everywhere, and even if you can send it anywhere, in the same time, most government things of different countries are incompatible. So let's say if you have a seaport in China, its database will not be compatible to seaport in US maybe. You have to do something artificially to connect them, and they will have many data stored in different places across the world that are totally separated one from each other. So this is the thing we have to, this is the challenge we have to solve, I suppose. And I think it will be solved thanks to blockchain, who just popped up out of humanity because it was not created in some country. It was created in the internet. The internet has no borders, so we don't even know in what country it just appeared. So this is a pure product of human interaction because it's based on researches of different scientists from different countries. It's based on different technologies made by many different people before, like torrents or many other things. So I want to say that we still have the problem. At the same time, again and again, the problem is in governments. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. It's a regulatory framework, and that somehow works against the push that is coming through liquid data and usage of all sorts of mobile technologies. We have a branch in Korea, in Seoul, and as I think many of you know, it's one of the most innovative countries in the world. I think it's currently in the Bloomberg Index for innovation countries on place number 1. And it is a country where you have the fastest internet, where you have 100% mobile coverage. People are on their mobile phones kind of 24/7. And I think what needs to come along now, besides regulators who understand the driving force of all these technologies, is really education. That's another part that is, I think, where we will see which countries are driving or are taking a leading role in this world. That's missing in so many ways. Even coming out of Germany, I see the lack of education, the education system teaching the kids things really from the past and not how to move into the future. And in Korea, I would say the educational level is already very high, and that's another reason why the working force, I think 30% of the whole working force is already owning cryptocurrencies. So there is already blockchain education, cryptocurrency education. So they are moving very fast. I think that will be very interesting to see in the future which countries are on the forefront of this education.
So do you all think that globalization and digitalization is a boon or a threat to the mankind? And if it is a threat, how do you, because when there is a threat, there is always an opportunity to innovate. So how do you think that threat can be converted into an opportunity?
Okay.
So that's the pattern, so you're going to start.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't mind. Well, it's both, right? I mean, I think it would be incorrect for me to sit here and say it isn't. On one hand, I think Oleg talked about this when we were just chatting. Globalization means that some of the localization is taken away, which means more transportation, smarter transportation probably, but is it green transportation? May not be. So could that add to the carbon footprint? It could, right? So is it good for Mother Earth? May not be. But globalization, I think, is necessary because, and we kind of talked about this, how do you get the will, a united will for globalization or coming together? And you look to Hollywood and you see one of those aliens or asteroids hitting the Earth, and all nations come together because we're the human nation at that point, right? But so maybe it's a crisis that brings it. Maybe it's a virus, right? Can you quickly share medical data in an efficient way so that you can prevent something? At that point, it's human life. It's not, I'm a citizen of here or there. We're in the medical field. AI Med is a big organization behind opening up data in the medical field. In US, it's a big problem. China is far leading that category. And China's done a very novel concept, which is the individual owns the data. And they have the rights to allow people to share and know that their data is being used. That concept needs to permeate globally. I think that you own your data and you know who you're giving your data to. And if it's for the good, you share it. And I think when you open that concept up, more people are going to be willing because they know where it's going and they have ownership. And if you bring in blockchain in the right way and you talk about concepts of micro cryptocurrencies, transactions for use of your data that can be, ledgered safely. I mean, these are all concepts you need to globalize. But, behind it, are there issues that will, combat what we're trying to do for climate change and for the Earth? So we have to balance it. But I think overall, it is a good thing. But we just have to find the balance.
Okay, so follow the same pattern, yes. Well, again, if I just simply answer based on my personal experience, globalization has benefited me tremendously. I wouldn't be sitting here. But again, it depends on the perspective whom you ask. If you ask India in the 17th century whether they benefited from globalization when East India Company essentially run the continent, I'm not sure they were big fans of that. So I think it's like everywhere. So there are winners and losers, and where you are, you either benefit or not. For example, we do a lot of business in Russia at the moment, and I would say that sanctions were blessing from heaven for the country, to be honest, for digital technologies, because all of a sudden the government had to now look at their local resources and talent, and their companies which were totally overlooked before, and projects went to, let's say, Big Four and all those celebrity companies, now go to national companies. And that is extremely a positive thing, I believe. And the government is now launching what is known as national digital initiatives, massive projects with lots of funding. So less globalization sometimes could be quite beneficial for specific players. So it's a complicated question, and it's very difficult to give one answer. So it probably depends very much on whom you will ask.
Thank you, Oleg. Yes, I agree with you that globalization can be beneficial, and the sanctions can be beneficial in the same time. And yes, if we take this area in Russia, also maybe some food production, it benefits from sanction, but the consumers do not, because they wait until development of this areas will be complete. But I hate borders. Honestly, I hate borders, but I know why they exist, and I understand this protective focus of all borders, and the idea to protect what we love, or of sometimes we need to develop from scratch, and you need protection. Yes, it's like in a gardening, you have to protect something which just started to grow, but in the same time, I'm tired of borders. If I'm just coming to another country to open a company, it's maybe complicated. If I want to pay to Indian coder, it may be complicated. If I want to hire Russian guys from Switzerland, it may be complicated. So all of this, I understand why it happens, to protect local working places, local people. Local people vote for local laws. So, but as I understand, humanity is now divided. There are some global people now who do not like borders at all and do not accept this idea, and the others who like protection of the borders. So this is in the same time, globalization is a threat for them, But after slow by slow, we may change all the economy, so it will become more and more global every year. And their working places will not disappear, but they will be switched, changed to something else. So it is not a big deal, but we have to do this slowly. Yes, we have to do this under control. I agree with this.
I think for the next decades to come, the biggest battle will be between centralized systems and decentralized systems. And the cat is out of the box. And with Bitcoin working, creating the biggest network, computer network on planet Earth, without any company having ownership on it. It was just given to human mankind. And since that, it developed into this huge network of people mining, working for it every day. And I think we have now seen already in some scale a system, a decentralized autonomous organization that works. And so that is now the question, is this application, application for financial interaction called Bitcoin, is this also a role model for more of these kind of systems to come? And yeah, it will be a battle between the ones who like to keep power and in a centralized manner, and the ones who see the beauty for humanity into decentralized, autonomous systems. I think that will be a huge, huge battle. And what we have seen with Bitcoin and every country that tries to take it down, it's difficult. It's just you need to shut down the internet or you need to create more borders. And not even that is enough. Yeah, I think innovation always finds its way. And we will see how governments, and how we as humans, are going to embrace it. And will the next Uber not be owned by a company anymore? It will maybe look like Uber, like an app that is running on your mobile device, where a driver is just connected to the one who needs a ride, and without this intermediary of a big company in between that is taking fees from drivers. And there will be more money for the ones who are giving the service. We will slowly see more and more of these concepts evolving in the next decades. And then we will see how humanity is going to transform.
Wonderful. So I want to open the floor for the audience, but I see in our discussion, technology and government are the buzzwords. So in parting thoughts, what do you think is the future path for globalization and digitalization, which is the theme of our discussion?
So I think we all touched on it in one way or another. I think it's democratization of data, right? I think if you find the way, if everyone, and this is why this discussion at Caspian Week or other forums in Davos is important, because we have to get the political will underneath it, and really we have to bring together the best technologists from every single country in the world to say, okay, put them all in one room and say, come up with a platform. Yeah, technologists are going to battle it out a little bit, but at the end, I think technologists will not look at if it's my idea or not, but I think at the end, if it works, people are going to adapt and use it, because we all want to build on something that works and scale it. So I think globalization is inevitable. We have a lot of work to do, but it starts with that, and my hope is that one day a kid in sub-Saharan Africa on a mobile phone can come up with a concept, have it built in Russia and used all over the world. And I think it's possible if we have the right players in the right room making that possible.
Right. Okay. My opinion is slightly different. I'm an optimist, but I think we are not yet, but soon we'll be going through dark ages. Yes. I don't know whether you have heard about this, but Russia has already successfully tested a switch of the Russian internet from the global internet, so they can actually with one button to disconnect completely, and I guess somewhere in the Putin's office there must be a button. You know what is going on. As I said, I'm in Britain, so we are living a huge market which connected 300 million people, but we do it deliberately, consciously, and quite determinedly. So I think there will be a period, as I mentioned before, we're going through a cycle, and I don't know how long it will be, but probably more than 5 years, where unfortunately nations will be putting more and more barriers and creating more and more obstacles, maybe to ferment, to develop their own digital technologies to get their edge over competitors. Again, sorry for mentioning Russia so often. Putin did say it openly that whoever will control artificial intelligence will dominate the world. That's at least the Russian policy. So that shows that nations will be competing, and digital technology is just one of the areas. So.
Yeah, I would like to touch the adoption, the topic of adoption of technology. If you don't adopt technology, your competitor will. So anyway, you adopt any efficient technologies. In the same time, the borders, they protect those who can't adapt it so quickly. So they have to be protected. So for economy, it's very important that all businesses adapt all modern technologies more efficient very quickly. But in the same time, they can't do that. So we use borders to protect them from the technologies and from adoption of these technologies. This is very funny. So I think this is like evil and good. It will be always this is fight. But anyway, we will bring it to life, the global world, when all humanity will be united.
I think the biggest threat for all centralized systems and who just want to protect power are actually Gen Z teenagers. As I said, I'm a big believer in teen entrepreneurship. I have myself created a teenage entrepreneurs advisory board for my company, consisting out of 10 teenage entrepreneurs from around the globe. And I know how they develop products, how entrepreneurial they are, what a force. They are on their mobile phones, of course, also 24/7. They have a knowledge base on their fingertips. And I think every country or every government is currently underestimating the willpower of this generation. They are not like millennials. They have seen a lot of their millennial peers and brothers and sisters struggling within the current system, studying, not finding jobs, student loans on their shoulders. And I think this generation already, all these kids that are advising me, 15, 16, 17 years, running already their own companies. They know how to use social media as their force. I think that's another reason why Greta was also so successful with what she did so far, is because she has these minions, this crowd behind her that are empowering through social networks. They know how to use it. And we are all too old to know how to use it. And I think this will bring digitalization, globalization, decentralization much faster forward. It's this very special generation.
So very, very interesting. Due to the constraint of time, we will take 2 questions, and after that, I will give my concluding remarks before we close the panel. So I will open the floor for the questions.
Any questions?
Everybody agrees.
One. Nice.
Hi, my name is Matthias, and I think Melanie, you were talking about law beforehand, like P2P law. What do you have in mind about this, and do you have any ideas? Is this already existing, being already built up, or how do you see this?
What kind of law do you explicitly mean?
Like peer-to-peer law, or like cross-border law in like the digital
Peer-to-peer.
space?
Well, I mean, this is where blockchain technology and smart contracts are coming into place, where you can set governance and put it into code, and how new communities shall interact peer-to-peer with each other. Which incentives do they have to behave good in an economy, or which punishments the smart contracts can set out. The thing is, we can now put all this governance, all these laws into smart contracts and bring it to scale. So this is the beauty about, we do not have to trust each other.
I conclude that most of the rest of the crowd agrees with what was discussed here. Before I give my remarks, any other question? Yes.
I don't think demographics is an issue in digitalization. My question is, I think the biggest threat is trust, data leakage, and unprecedented attacks. So how does corporates become more resilient in safeguarding the systems?
Sorry, I didn't understand
How
the
does
lesson.
corporates get resilient in safeguarding their systems through unprecedented attacks?
Cybersecurity is like eternal fight again of evil and good. So yes, we will do wars in cyberspace. We will, like, some hackers of one country attack the others. I remember the virus that changed the algorithm of nuclear centrifuge of some South country. I will not say. Okay, it was perfect. You didn't even had to open the file. You just opened the folder with file. When it was just trying to draw the icon of the file, your system was already attacked. So yes. You never know from what country attack comes from. This is the problem. So attacks will come from countries, but you're not sure from what countries this attack comes from. When somebody attacks your country, you know who. They come from this side, okay? They wear this military things, okay? This is regulated by law, by the way. So you have to have some signs. Who are you? So some the other side could understand why you're doing this. But in cyberspace, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And you even doesn't know, is it army attacking you, another company attacking you, or just this crazy guy attacking you? Because the effect is the same. One smart guy can attack the whole factory. Some people already do that sometimes by, like, white hats hackers who hack something just to show that there is a hole in security here, there is a breach in security. They do that, but there are many not white hat hackers, like black hat hackers, who doesn't tell anyone when they find this breach. And in one moment, if some country starts the real war with another country, they might use these accumulated breaches in the one moment. They may turn off the electric plant, some water supply, and let's say in hospital people will die. Even if it happens for maybe 2 hours, it may happen that people will start dying already. This will bring war to the real world. The war will come to real life, even if you don't know from where attack started, because people may get angry and attack those who they like the less, okay? But so the third party may create war between two other parties, not even having one soldier, okay? Yes, this is a big threat, but we are trying to live in a global world, and the solution for this situation is to remove borders, actually. So you don't need to attack anyone. You attack like economically, maybe. You invest money, you consume maybe some big corporations by other big corporations. This is how corporations control this world, how they consume it. So they don't need borders anymore. And if you remove borders in this system, it will work anyway. There will be like local economic wars anyway, but it will not have so big consequences that it was like World War II, let's say. So I hope the war will never disappear from this world, but I hope it will move to virtual world, virtual direction, and it will not have these dramatic consequences that it was before. Thank you.
I actually wanted to comment on this cyber risks. As I mentioned, our background is in financial mathematics, but we also a digital technology company. So we combine these two things and offer it a solution which we published recently. So we treat cyber risk as operational risk, and like with any operational risk, you have to be prepared, you have to follow certain protocols, but essentially you can't protect yourself 100%. It's almost axiom, so there will be always new ways to disrupt your business. So like earthquakes, so we just designed cyber bonds, and basically you sell your risk to others who are willing to take it on, and this way you can create a pretty stable system. At least financially you will be protected.
So last question.
Priya, I just wanted to comment on, sorry. We talk about future-proofing in whatever we design, right? But the client always asks us, especially the large ones. And really, there's no good answer, because we say, look, there's a better hacker born every day, right? So what's the answer? The answer is really that companies should form a way to future-proof your product by lending it out to hackers. So hackers create a company, and you actually contract them to say, future-proof my product, right? And believe me, I think there's a real industry in this. If you can show, now there will be hackers who will never go for the capital and will want to stay true to their skill or task. But I think if you bring them together, this is an industry that's going to come out in the future. If it's not in 2 years, it's definitely in 5 years, right? And I think that's part of the solution. Again, not 100% ever, but put it to good use, right? And so you can protect as much as possible.
So last question. The question should be short, and so should be the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make the question short, though I don't know if the answer can be short. With the access to big data being easier and easier, with the evolution of artificial intelligence, there are questions about ownership that are rising. We heard in another panel this song being created by artificial intelligence. Who's the owner of this song? My question is about how do you see future business models with artificial intelligence, big data being used? The internet brought the platforms that cut the intermediaries, the Booking.coms, the Airbnb, and the Uber of this world. What will be the future business models with artificial intelligence?
Can I answer this question? I'll give you my question. just a simple thing. If you have a car that is driven by artificial intelligence, you may program this car to have this money, all of them, and use it as it wants, the car wants. If it needs to be clean or fix it, it may use it. It may buy another car if it has profit to have another taxi in this world. So we may end up that we have some services that are served by no living person. So we may have Uber of 22nd century that will be like, I cannot say what is this, but it have no owner. It works. It spends all profit to fix itself and just to maintain it work. It doesn't need other money to put anywhere. So it's like free, almost free, non-profit taxi everywhere. Imagine that. Thank you.
A lot was, the topic AI was covered a lot in various events around Davos. So was blockchain technology. I think what is also something which hopefully will be covered in the next Davos and the next to come is the decentralization of the web. That is now Tim Berners-Lee, who gave us the World Wide Web some years ago, is working on a very interesting new solution to decentralize it. He saw that a couple of things he invented worked out pretty well and some didn't. And so it's very interesting. I think we need to look at the decentralization of the web. Then it will be very interesting to see how AI in a future decentralized web, or the AI that we have built now, can work, especially when people are slowly getting back ownership of their data. Yeah. Currently, the current AI is just built around big, huge data sets, from which they make work and create artificial intelligence out of it. But what happens if this data isn't available anymore in the future, and if the web is decentralized? So it will be very interesting to see the discussions, hopefully, in the next Davos.
Actually, I wanted to add that I did suggest to Murat to invite Alexa to the next Caspian Week, and you could ask artificial intelligence directly.
So I think they've answered it all as best as we can. I mean, one thing I'd like to see, just not to deviate, is get your teenage entrepreneurial board members to come to a session. They're from international countries. Get the political leaders in there, put them for an hour, listen to them, and understand what it is. I mean, they may feel like, okay, we're technologists, we want this because it's profitable. Just listen to them. And if we can accomplish that in the next Davos, I think it's a great start.
So this has been a very interesting panel. Do you all agree? So we are living in a globally and a digitally connected world. And clearly we all look forward to a digitally globalized future. But there are clearly hurdles that we have to get past as global citizens, and it is going to take a unified global approach to achieve this framework. Hope this conversation advances as we gather again next year in Davos. Thank you and good evening.